Hello everyone, and Total War 40k is going to be coming at some point. Whether it be this year or next year, we don't really know just yet. But I wanted to talk about my personal wish list regarding this title. Because, yeah, Total War has kind of dumbed down over the years. Whether that be losing out on certain styles of mechanics, or just generally how some battles work. I've got some high hopes. And it's cool to have a 40k game in the Total War format, but first and foremost, it needs to be a Total War game. So let's talk about a personal wish list, go into a lot of detail. Again, some of you guys might see them as important, maybe not, but yeah, I really feel strongly about this. I've got thousands of hours into the Total War series, and I'm hoping that this game will also give me a few thousand too. Alright, let's start off strong. Match combat. This is something that needs to be in-game, and it's something that they're probably going to be looking into, but I just don't want it to be in the same way that it was handled with Warhammer Fantasy. Warhammer 3, for example, there is a fair few bits of match combat, but in most cases it's extremely janky. We had a lot more of that in previous titles. And I guess they're using the excuse with, oh yeah, you know, there's so many different types of bodies and monsters, and yeah, that doesn't work, considering how much money this series made. People do actually go in just to watch the fighting, and it sucks when it just looks really passive. I don't know why it's like this. This is a very profitable franchise, and 40k is going to have a lot of melee fights. I know some people might think it's all guns and glory, but no, we've got Tyranids, we've got loads of orcs in melee, hell, we've got a lot of space marines in melee too. There needs to be very thorough match combat. It's a new engine and they've talked about, you know, destructible terrain and stuff. I just want to see more match stuff, and hopefully they'll start to show that type of animation soon. I want to talk about battle maps because that's quite important. So the one that we did see here is very clearly a quest battle map. This is because Creative Assembly does usually a quest battle to kind of showcase what the things are going to be like and how the game's going to work. It's the same for Warhammer 1. It was the same for pretty much every other game too. So that's perfectly fine. It looks like there's a lot going on. So it's going to be quite interesting because obviously 40k focuses quite heavily on cover fire and just a lot of ridiculous stuff, which is why you could have just a lot of cheesy builds on the tabletop. A big problem here though is cover. Line of sight has always been pretty much a big problem for Creative Assembly, especially in the Warhammer franchise. For Fantasy, where we're having a lot of line of sight problems overall, even still to this day. But that needs to be addressed, and hopefully it does. Obviously it's a new engine, so I am pretty positive there, but it's something that has been a historic problem. The maps look fairly large from what I can tell, considering the fact that yeah, the mini-map there, which I don't like. Hopefully there's an editing tool so we can change around the UI, because that should be on the top right. Big maps are quite important. Warhammer 3 suffers from very tiny maps in most cases, barring like very select maps. And it sucks because you don't really feel like you're getting too much of a battle out of it. So I'm saying overall, because just because this map looks big doesn't mean that the other ones are big too. Sieges, once again, very big problem in Total War, which is why I'm saying that, you know, Creative Assembly should start talking about, you know, doing some blogs and stuff. But sieges haven't been great, and in Warhammer 3, they've mostly just been band-aiding it and, well, kind of avoiding the problem, I guess, in some cases, because they did a beta and then nothing's really come out from that. But I'm very much expecting some form of siege combat when it comes to Warhammer 40k. We do know that some of the factions do build up fortresses. Hell, we've had kind of like that similar styling when it comes to like older Dawn of War games and so on. It's important to have sieges represented, but it's about time that sieges were done well. Again, I think this is going to be something that's going to be done with the whole destructible terrain situation, but we need to know certain specifics, especially like, you know, stuff like walls. Are walls going to be usable? This isn't even just like for 40k, but meant free and so on. Walls need to be viable. The gate bug, I wonder if that's actually going to leave. It's a new engine apparently, but you know, it could just be like a very stylized new shard of Warscape. So I'm kind of worried there. I really want to see really good sieges. If you're playing as, you know, if you've got Iron Warriors versus Imperial Fist, right? You want good sieges for attackers and good sieges for defenders. Orcs will build up strongholds. You know, Necrons should have some stuff too. It's quite important that it's done and it's actually done well. So here's hoping that that's something that's going to be addressed. We're going to have to talk about the future regarding DLCs, but we do know that Total War, I mean, it is one of the DLC farms of this time. It's not as bad as, say, for example, Paradox, but it can get pretty grim sometimes. DLC is fine. At the end of the day, we want Tau, we want everything else, right? A lot of people want certain races, and I think that's going to be important here because Warhammer 40k is so massive, and it's going to continue getting massive, which I think is a benefit to this game. They're being able to then add more stuff. I think the big problem here is Creative Assembly have been slowing down a lot with DLCs, and it's just not being great. You know, you've got a fan base which is asking for more and more content. So I'm hoping that they've got this planned with an actual proper roadmap. Remember that the roadmap publicly has changed a number of times when it came to Warhammer 40k. Who knows how much it changed in the back, you know, just in CA. I'm imagining it just changes on a weekly basis at this point. But DLC needs to come out consistently, and it needs to be like stuff that people want, right? So I'm imagining Race Pack straight after, because that's what they did with Warhammer. They released the Beastmen straight after, which people did like in Warhammer 1. And then they'll probably go for what is considered Lord Packs, right? Like faction versus faction, or maybe they'll just like push with the just character pack styling. I think what's really important here is it coming out consistently and going onto factions and characters that people would be very excited about, rather than sometimes going like, here's a Hellman Ghost. You're probably saying who if you don't know Warhammer Fantasy, and that's perfectly fine because a lot of the fantasy players went who also. That stuff needs to be avoided. Go into some big hitters, go into units that people want, because we're not going to expect the full Space Marine roster, Guard roster, and the rest, because yeah, they're going to want to separate them. There's going to be new units coming out in new editions. It's very easy to farm some cash here. My big issue is, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of disappointed that Chaos Space Marines it's going to be at the launch. Maybe that's going to be the first race pack. Who knows? It just feels very weird to have two good factions, I guess, with the Guards and the Space Marines. Well, technically the Eldar too, and then the Orcs, right? It just feels odd. It's a very odd choice. Performance. Creative Assembly need to guarantee the performance for the title is going to be good upon release. For those that don't play Total War games, yeah, launches haven't been great. Some people blamed COVID for Warhammer 40, which I don't think that was the problem with the launch of Warhammer 40. But it's been a thing for a number of Total War games where Creative Assembly will release and fix later, and that's something that doesn't work. It's going to be a surefire way to see the end of Creative Assembly, and I don't want that. I'm pretty sure other people don't want that either. But the most important thing is that the game needs to work as intended. There is a slight concern, obviously, considering that RAM is getting much more expensive now, and, well, I'm kind of hoping that it's not going to require a supercomputer. They have to make sure that it runs for everyone. Sure, it's going to be able to run on console, but still, just because it's running on console is also kind of giving me a fear that maybe the PC will suffer because of it. Again, we'll have to see when time comes to it, but I've been burnt in the past and naturally I can be quite apprehensive. This isn't so much for just Total War 40k as it is for like the future of Total War in general. Communication. Look, things are going to go bad, and that's fine. Things are going to go well, and that's awesome. But we do need a little bit more communication. I mean, 2026 hasn't started off to a great start just yet. We're almost at the end of the month, and there is no information out there whatsoever, which kind of sucks. But it is important for Creative Assembly to start realizing that talking to the fan base that wants to give them money is really important. I mean, just in general. Things are going to go bad, and like I said, it's going to be fine. There's going to be bugs. There is. When a game as large as Total War comes out, it's never going to be bug-free. The fan base understands it, the creators understand it. I wish Creative Assembly realized that, yeah, we understand that. I can guarantee at least one or two things are going to go wrong with 40k, and that's fine. I just want to see more reactive communication, less legal speak, you know, with the usual stuff that they've been doing, and just like, hey, yeah, we're on it. We're going to get to fix this as fast as possible. We know it's been a problem. That is better than just going, you know, it's a Category 1, and the Category 1 has still not really been resolved. I just want this series to be as best as it can be. There are a lot of expectations for 40k, and I feel like this could really hurt it. So it needs to be talked about. And the last thing, which is a genuine fear that I do have, is no AI. There's a movement going on right now with like loads of AI bullshit, and It's slowly creeping into a lot of video games. There is going to be an AI advisor that's going to be tested by some people in Total War Pharaoh. So, you know, like the 2.5 people that play Total War Pharaoh will see it, I guess. I'm just not keen on the idea of this, right? Because it starts off with AI advisors and it could go into worse. The problem is AI was not needed for an advisor. They just needed add in details, add in context. There was an encyclopedia. That stuff needs to be used up. There's so much that can be done just to make the game easier. And I've said this in previous videos, right? There's no need. All they need to do is make another campaign like they did with the Lost God. That was tremendous. I have personally introduced people to this franchise through that campaign. It is absolutely fantastic to teach people on how Warhammer 3 works. And that's a good thing. A lot of people celebrate it. Sure, the story is basically lifted from the Reign of Chaos because it is like so close to the Reign of Chaos in such a ridiculous degree that I instinctively call Yuri the character Arthas, right? But we don't need an AI to be introduced there, which will potentially hurt performance. Another big fear of mine, which I talked about. I was taken aback when they announced it for Pharaoh. Again, Nvidia must have paid them well. We know that these things happen. I just hope that it doesn't creep into the other titles. Maybe they just did it for Pharaoh, knowing that people won't really care. This shit needs to stop being normalized. But yeah, this is my wish list. It's not very large, and I could go into a lot more detail, but the idea is, you know, I just want Total War to be Total War. That's my biggest fear. I'm not just saying for 40k. Med 3 could end up being very, very structured and be really cool, but it needs to feel like a Total War game. Big battles, fun campaigns, just loads of fuckery, because that's what people like, and that's what I like. There's a reason why I've spent over 4,000 hours on Warhammer 3. I really enjoy it, even with its faults, because, yeah, it's not a perfect game, and I doubt it ever will be, but it is incredibly fun. And I'm hoping the next titles, whatever ends up coming after 40k and Med 3, because they're clearly working on other stuff, I just hope they're good. As long as the foundation remains, and it still is, and I can look at it and play it and go, yes, this is a Total War game, that's the most important thing. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's have a bit of discussion. I should be live today, by the way, on twitch.tv/thegreatbookgrudges when this video goes live, playing some Grand Cafe. For those of you not aware, Grand Cafe just got massively nerfed on the tabletop, which, while I enjoy playing Grand Cafe on the tabletop, I do agree that it needed to happen. So, you know, let's have a little fun there. Let's have a little chat and talk about the future. Have a great one, guys, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.